Welcome to the show where we dive deep into going from understanding to speak English naturally in your everyday life without feeling like you are stuck in a textbook.
Today, we are breaking down how to actually use the words you already know so you can start having real conversations with your neighbors and friends instead of just nodding.
It is so frustrating when you can hear everything someone says, but your mouth just won't move fast enough to reply. So we're going to fix that right now.
If you enjoy these tips and want to keep improving your fluency with us, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video because it really helps us.
I was talking to a friend the other day who has been studying for years, and he told me he still feels like a robot when he tries to order coffee.
That is because most people focus on the rules instead of the rhythm of how we actually talk when we are just hanging out in a park or shop.
Exactly. And that gap between knowing a word and saying it is what we call the fluency bridge, which is exactly what we are going to cross together today.
We need to stop worrying about being perfect and start focusing on being understood, because your friends care more about the story you are telling than your perfect grammar.
Think about the last time you wanted to say something, but stayed quiet because you were afraid of making a mistake. That is the first habit to break.
I always tell people that speaking is a physical skill, like riding a bike or cooking a meal, so you have to move your muscles to get better.
We are going to share some real stories about how we learn to communicate better and give you some simple challenges you can try the next time.
It is all about those small interactions at the grocery store or with the person walking their dog that build up your confidence over time until it feels natural.
Let's look at why your brain freezes up even when you know the vocabulary, because understanding the why makes it much easier to find the how for practice.
Most of the time, it is just because we are trying to translate every single word in our heads, instead of just letting the phrases flow out easily.
That translation trap is a huge energy drainer, and it makes you sound hesitant. So we want to move toward thinking directly in the language as much possible.
I remember when I was learning a new skill, and I had to keep reminding myself that it is okay to sound a bit messy at the start.
That is such a great point, because even native speakers stumble over their words or use fillers when they are thinking about what to say next in conversation.
We use words like well or actually to give ourselves time to think, and using those correctly can actually make you sound much more like a native speaker.
That was a perfect example of how simple language can be very effective for daily life, because you don't need big words to describe your reality to other people. When you are at the store and someone asks how you're doing, you don't need a complex answer.
I think a lot of people get stuck because they think they need to know 5,000 words before they can speak. But in reality, you can do so much with just a few hundred. If you can master the most common phrases, you will find people are patient.
One technique I love is called shadowing, where you listen to a native speaker and try to repeat exactly what they say at the same time to match their speed and tone. This helps your brain get used to the music of the language for being understood.
Shadowing is amazing because it takes the pressure off of having to create your own sentences while you are still training your vocal cords and your tongue to move in new ways. It is like a warm-up for an athlete before a big game for you.
We also need to talk about the fear of being judged, because that is usually the biggest wall standing in the way of someone going from understanding to speaking English fluently. Most people you meet in your daily life are not English teachers. They are regular.
That is so true, because communication is about connection, not about passing a test or getting a grade from a teacher in a classroom. When you talk to your coworkers about your weekend plans or ask a friend for a recipe, you are building a relationship.
Let's do a little role play where we imagine we are at a community event and we are meeting someone for the first time to show how to keep things casual and easy. I might start by saying something about the food or the music to chat.
I love that idea because it shows that you don't need a specific topic to start talking. You can just use what is happening around you in the moment. If I were there, I would probably agree with you and then ask a simple follow-up question.
Another great tip is to record yourself speaking on your phone and then listen back to it to see where you might be hesitating or where you sound really clear. It can be a bit uncomfortable at first to hear your own voice for sure.
Listening to yourself also helps you realize that you probably sound much better than you think you do in your own head, which is a great boost for your self-esteem. We are often our own toughest critics, and seeing progress over a few weeks helps.
I want to encourage everyone listening to try and find one person today that they can say just one extra sentence to, whether it is the mail carrier or a cashier. Instead of just saying thank you, try saying thank you. Have a great afternoon.
That is a fantastic challenge because it is low stakes and it gets you out of your comfort zone in a way that feels manageable and even a little bit fun. You will be surprised at how many people will respond with a smile and words.
We should also mention that it is perfectly okay to ask someone to repeat themselves or to say that you didn't quite catch what they meant in a conversation. Even native speakers do this all the time when there is background noise or when someone speaks too quickly.
Exactly. It shows that you are a good listener, and people appreciate that much more than someone who just pretends to understand while looking confused or staying completely silent. It keeps the communication channel open and prevents misunderstandings that can make you feel frustrated or embarrassed.
I remember a time when I was trying to explain something to a neighbor, and I couldn't find the right word, so I just described it using other words I knew. Instead of saying lawnmower, I said the machine that cuts the grass, and they knew.
That is such a smart way to handle it because it keeps the flow of the conversation going instead of stopping everything to look up a word on your phone. It also helps you realize that you have the tools to explain almost anything if you stay focused.
Let's talk about the importance of listening to casual content like this podcast or vlogs where people are talking naturally, rather than reading from a formal script or a book. When you hear how we link words together, or how we use intonation to show,
Natural English is full of contractions and reduced sounds that can be hard to understand if you have only ever studied the formal version of the language in school. By immersing yourself in casual audio, you train your ears to recognize these patterns so they flow.
I also think it is helpful to have a few go-to stories or topics that you feel very comfortable talking about, so you always have something to say if there is a silence. Maybe it is a hobby you love, a place you visited recently.
That is a great strategy because it allows you to focus on your delivery and your connection with the other person, rather than struggling to think of what to say next. You can practice these stories while you are alone until they feel like second nature.
We have covered a lot of ground today, from the physical side of speaking to the mental hurdles that can hold us back from reaching our full potential in English. I hope you are feeling inspired to take that first step and start using your voice.
It really is a journey of 1,000 miles that starts with a single hello or a quick comment about the weather to a stranger at the bus stop or the park. Don't be afraid to make mistakes because they are just proof you are trying.
Before we go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss an episode of our casual English conversations and practice sessions. It is the best way to stay consistent with your learning and to keep that momentum.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today and for being such an active and dedicated part of our English learning family here on the channel. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep having fun with the language as you discover.
Bye for now. And remember that you have everything you need to succeed if you just keep showing up and giving it your best effort every single day. We are cheering for you, and we can't wait to hear about all the great conversations soon.
One last thing to keep in mind is that your accent is a part of your identity, and you should never feel ashamed of it as long as you are being understood clearly. Many people find accents charming and interesting, so focus on your clarity now.
That is so true. And we want to thank you again for being part of this community and for sharing your journey with us as you move from understanding to speaking English. It is a beautiful process, and we are honored to be a part of it.